All right, let's talk about mutations. So if you remember, a mutation is a change in an organism's DNA. So it happens during that transcription, or can happen during that replication process. So mutations may or may not affect your physical traits. So sometimes it'll affect the phenotype and sometimes it will not. We're going to talk about different types of mutations. So there's single gene mutations, which are point mutations and frameshift mutations, or there's larger chromosomal mutations. So a single gene mutations, you have a point mutation, which literally just replaces one nucleotide with another. So if you have ACGT, it's going to then replace maybe that G with a C, so it'd be ACCT instead. A frameshift mutation is actually one that is going to shift that reading frame. So it's inserting either an extra nucleotide or it can delete an actual nucleotide out. Frameshift mutations tend to have greater ramifications than a point mutation. All right, then there's chromosomal mutations. So these are mutations that affect the entire chromosome. Okay, so these typically occur during meiosis, so the first part of meiosis during crossing over. So you have gene duplication when a part of that gene is repeated in that chromosome. So it literally is duplicated. And then you have gene insertion, so you can have the insertion from a piece of a chromosome from another chromosome inserted into another chromosome. Gene deletion, where a gene is actually removed from that chromosome. Gene inversion, where the order of genes can actually be switched. And then there's translocation, where you can actually exchange pieces of chromosomes, of non-homologous chromosomes, with one another. And then there's non-disjunction, which this happens when your homologous chromosomes do not separate correctly during meiosis. So this ends up creating errors in your chromosome numbers in your gametes. All right, so again, mutations can have an effect on the phenotype, so it can change your physical traits, but they also might not. Some mutations are considered silent, and they will not have actually any physical effect on the organism or the physical phenotype. All right, and then mutagens. Mutagens are essentially the physical or chemical agents that cause a mutation. So these are things that are actually causing mutations to occur. So these are things outside your body. So physical mutagen could be like high radiation, and chemical mutagens are things that are similar to normal DNA, but they can cause base pairing to not happen correctly. All right, so now we're going to talk about stem cells. So if you remember, stem cells are those cells that remain undifferentiated. Basically, they are cells that are able to change into any different type of cell. So if you remember, your adult stem cells are able to turn into certain specific things, but are not able to differentiate near as much as your embryonic stem cells. So in your body, your cells normally differentiate into specific types. So you can have a skin cell, blood cell, muscle cell, bone cell, nerve cell, all these different types of cells. And stem cells are ones that are able to differentiate into all those different types of cells. And this happens by your cells only expressing certain parts. So certain parts of the DNA that are inside those cells are actually transcribed and translated to determine what the function of that cell is going to be.